Was I look at this inspirational column. It's an opportunity that people can learn a thing or two. And just a disclaimer before we start, every week I write this column, we always get an email or two. Why don't you ask him this question? You know, you should have asked this question. Tuesday we like to ask questions. So tonight, we only have 15, 20 minutes. If you have any question, he'll be right here. He's not leaving, and you can ask him any question you want, and he'll be more than happy to stay, so we'll try to do the plan. We've never met before, until tonight. So we're going to try to have the column in a certain way, the conversation, how we normally do the interview. Normally when I do interviews, I've done over 300 interviews with entrepreneurs across the United States. I would say in the Jewish world, it's hard to say that anyone has interviewed more successful business people than myself. I'm hoping it rubs off through osmosis. I'm working on it. I'm waiting for it. But we'll try to do a condensed version. I usually do it over the phone. So let's start with the basics. Who is Jay Gelman? Tell me a little bit of your background and how you got to where you are today.
I really appreciate it. I'm still trying to figure out who Jay Gelman is. I've been working on that for about 58 years, so hopefully I'm going to get there. I appreciate the opportunity. I was here a few years ago on a panel where there was a lot of e-commerce discussion, and I run a video game business, very different than probably everybody in this room. I've been in the video game business since 1981. I worked for a company called Atari. That was the first consumer video game product in the market. I had no idea what it was. I wanted a marketing job. I went to Warner Communications that owned Atari, and they gave me this job. I had no idea what video games were. I am still trying to figure out what video games are today still, so it's ongoing work. But basically, I've been in the business in all different facets since 1981. Most of them running my own company. Alliance Media Holdings is the name of my company. We're a public company. Have been a public company since 2003. And if anyone wants to talk to me about that, I will give you advice. Never become a public company if you can avoid it. There's a lot of really difficult issues that you have to deal with on top of your usual work. But all kidding aside, it is really it's a very interesting, I think, very interesting reality of how the video game business has grown and changed that probably can apply to everybody here in some way, because it's this purely consumer-driven product and group of products. So I'll start out that way.
Okay, obviously many people that are here are different levels of businesses. When you grew your company to, I think, about over $100 million, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the number. And people would like to learn that you start off as a worker. You literally worked in a sales company selling video games. If you could describe quickly how you took yourself from there to where you are today. You built it up. How do you build up your business?
We're not a $100 million company anymore. We were when we were shipping packaged product. We've changed our business a lot. I'll get into that a little bit. But basically, when I worked for Atari in 1981 for almost 5 years. Atari went from a very small company to a really tremendously explosive, a very unique growth stage in the entire consumer electronics industry, because it was the video games, the beginning of the video game business. It was the beginning of the home computer business. So Apple and Atari and Commodore and some of the other names that people may not even recognize anymore had their start in this phase of the business. So it grew very quickly, and it imploded very quickly too, because it was really not a sustainable business. It was really a fad. So basically, when I started out in working for Atari, the way that the company operated was that within about 6 to 8 weeks when you were doing a job, you were either promoted or fired. That's basically how they did things. They threw you into the deep end of the water and they said swim. And if you drown, okay, they threw somebody else into the deep end of the water. So I personally found that to be very challenging and exciting, and I loved learning things. And so I learned all phases of the business when I worked for them for 5 years. I learned sales, I learned marketing, I understood cost, I understood financing. All those were things that they kind of just threw me into. And the last thing that I did for them before they went out of business was I ran their distribution business in the New York metro market. And I really love distribution because you can do everything in business in distribution. You do sales, you do marketing, you do operations, you do finance. All of it was in one kind of neat package. And so I wanted to be a distributor. So after Atari went out of business, I stayed in the electronics business for a year or two. Then Nintendo came into the market. I don't know if everybody has heard of Nintendo. Nintendo actually, as a company, had tremendous foresight. They were a game company, but mostly in playing cards. They were a Japanese company, and they decided to go into the video game business. It took a tremendous amount of guts for a company to cross what was really a traditional Japanese company, open up here in the United States, and restart the video game business. And after they did that, I went with another Atari alumni of mine. We decided to go to them and ask them if we could become a distributor. And over the next year or two, we became distributors of all the major video game products because it was an industry that was rebirthing and regrowing. And we started a distribution business, which I ran for 10 years. And one day, a company by the name of Take-Two Interactive, Take-Two makes a game called Grand Theft Auto, so anybody in the video game business. Very good, very good. They knocked on our door, and I'll tell everybody a really quick story. They knocked on our door and they said, "We want to buy your company." Well, I really almost fell on the floor. I thought it was hysterical. "You want to buy our company?" And they said, "Yeah, we want to buy your company. You guys have developed a very nice business. Plus, you understand operations. You know how to take product in the market. You know how to sell it. You know how to market it. We don't have any of that. We know how to create content, but we can never really deliver the content and get the long dollar out of the sale." So they said, "Have you ever been interested in selling your company?" I said, "No, I never was interested." "Well, would you be interested?" I said, "Give me a minute." I went outside with my partner, and really on the back of an envelope, I said, "Why don't we just come up with the most outrageous idea that we could come up with? We'll put everything down on a piece of paper that we absolutely demand. Anything that they don't agree to, we're going to say it's not a deal." Just 5 minutes before they came in, we never thought that we'd sell our company to anybody. So we probably had 50 employees at the time. We had a warehouse in College Point in Queens, and we had offices, but we were mostly had our heads down like most entrepreneurs, just working very hard every day. We didn't see the value of our company. But we decided, here's a great idea, let's write it all down. So we were outside writing things down. When we thought we were done, we said, no, let's add this. Yeah, that's a great idea. Warrants, we didn't even know what warrants were. We asked for warrants. We had no idea. We said, yeah, let's get a car allowance. How much? 600, no, 800. Okay, good, 800. And we kept on writing these down. At the end, when I came in, the envelope had 2 sides worth of things that were written down. And the CEO of the company, whose name is Ryan Brandt, who has since passed away, unfortunately, and his CFO were at the table. His father, Peter Brandt, ran a company called White Birch, which was a huge conglomerate in the publishing business. They had a tremendous amount of money. Now, we didn't know all this at the time, how much money they had, or else it would have changed our envelope a little bit. But we said to them, look, here is what we would agree to, and if there's one thing on this list that you do not accept, we're out. They said, okay, let's hear the list. It probably took me 5-6 minutes to read everything. And the CFO and he were huddled up at like the end of our conference table, and they said, okay, is that it? Are those all the things you guys want? He said, yes. Okay, you got it. First rule of negotiating, never give the first number, ever. Ever, ever, ever. So it took them 6 seconds to decide that they were going to buy us, and they did. And it's a funny story because from there I went to work on Wall Street for a data company, a news aggregation company, and a market data company and an online broker firm called Track Data. And I ran all of their business operations for 5 years. And then I got a call from somebody at Take-Two, who actually I stayed friendly with, who I also worked at Atari, but he was now the CEO of Take-Two. We started out kind of in the same job. He was the CEO of Take-Two. He had replaced Ryan, and he said, Jay, did you ever think about getting back in the video game business? We're going to consolidate the 4 companies they bought after mine to Westchester, Ohio, and none of your employees want to move there. I said, gee, I wonder why. Westchester, Ohio, it's such a special place. You're on the border with Kentucky. It's fantastic. Can't imagine why my employees don't want to go there. So he said, well, you know what, maybe we can work out a deal. You can take your company back, which I did. I negotiated a very good deal. It cost me nothing. I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson the hard way. So I started the business again in 2002. We went public in 2003. And, you know, that's kind of the basic story. So we went from a physical distribution business, which we have run for all these years, to now a digital distribution business. We are very different than everybody here in the crowd, but we're really not in the physical space of distributing product anymore. We're in the digital space of distributing product. And it's a very big change, and it's a huge, huge undertaking to transform your business, but it is very exciting, and it's where we are right now.
So it's interesting, the video game space is still a popular physical product, right? You go to any stores, they still sell video games. People do buy, but you decide to make the transition. So what can you, let's understand why you decided to make that. It's a big transition, because again, some people here have physical products, obviously, some people maybe have some media, some people have some mixed. But what was the impetus to decide, I mean, there's obviously money involved why it wasn't working for you, but what was the decision to say, hey, we're going strictly digital? And can you explain also the benefits and negatives to it? Are less people downloading because some people want physical, or more people? Let's understand that, and then we'll get to how it can apply to the crowd.
Okay, so basically, we made our decision because of a few factors. The media business, anyone who's in the media space, whether it's music, or it's written media, because visual novels are a big part of the book business now, or video games. The digital presentation of the product is something that the consumer wants more and more. So we saw that coming. We had, 10 years ago, we bought a small publishing development studio that was concentrated on the apps side of the game business. And we progressed. We bought a studio in Seattle, Washington. We own one in New Zealand. We were doing that in conjunction with the physical business. And the physical business became a business that we started to see it transform. We started to see more and more people downloading content. And the truth is that people still want to buy a disc. There's still something to be said about the physical product. But it is hard to be in both businesses at the same time. And probably our biggest reason for making this change was, some of it was in our control. We felt it was the future. And some of it was out of our control. Our largest customer was Toys R Us. Some of you may have heard of Toys R Us. Some of you may have seen Jeffrey out there. Well, Toys R Us was our largest customer in the physical business. We were doing all of their fulfillment on their site for video game product, which was very substantial. We were one of their key suppliers of video games to all their stores. We did not get hurt in the bankruptcy, but we did get hurt in liquidation. We went back into business with them before they liquidated. We were, I don't know if anybody knows, but we were a debtor in possession financer of their whole video game business. And when they went out, we had a huge, we had a huge stake there. Not only did we lose money because they liquidated, and we became a creditor, an unsecured creditor. The hardest thing for us was we lost a $60 million customer. And there are no $60 million customers hanging off of trees anywhere anymore. They're very hard to replace. And we said, if we're going to reinvest in our business, which we wanted to do, where is the best place for our dollars to go? Is it in the consumer physical disc product, or is it on the digital side? And we really had to make a decision, and we decided to really concentrate on the digital side, and we think that that is something for us which is important. However, I will tell you, we still publish product, which is physical and digital, so we can still be in the physical business. We have a small distribution business in Miami right now. We used to have a warehouse in New Jersey and one in California, and we have one in Miami. We kept the Miami warehouse open because we want to transition in an orderly way. We had a very good customer base. We wanted to service them through this transition. But at some point in the near future, we will probably be out of the physical distribution business.
So let's understand a two-part question to this, because right now, for lack of a better term, you're a marketing company, right? Because you have product that you try to get digitally people to download it. So let's ask you two questions that can apply to the product. The first thing is, I guess from your loss, so to speak, while I decide to transition, what advice can you give for people who do have? The people in this room, they sell furniture, they sell dishes, they sell toys, makeup, all the types of physical stuff. What, from your lesson, like, you can go back and think, I could have made that work. What advice would you give them on the physical product? And the second thing is, now that you run an online company with digital media, and what advice would you give for people who try to build the digital? Because that's really what most people do as well. It's a two-end question.
Okay, so I think from the physical side, obviously customer concentration is a huge piece of the puzzle. So somebody who's B2B sales, not having more than 10% of your receivables from one customer is always great advice. In our space, that was an impossibility. You were out of business if you were not doing a lot of business with GameStop and Toys R Us and Walmart, let's say. And so what I would say is that we were very fortunate in that we had always were monitoring the major retailers' credit in the market. And we were very quick to pull ourselves away from a retailer who we thought was at risk. We were in Sears Kmart, we got out of that business. We did not get hurt in the Toys R Us bankruptcy, but I will tell you that the liquidation side of their business, we did get caught. And part of it, my own fault as the buck stops here, so to speak, was that we felt that we had to support Toys R Us, that they were a very loyal, important customer for us for many, many years. And we got management that was always a very close, friendly, personal type of group, was assuring us that a 400-store chain was going to emerge from liquidation, from bankruptcy, and there would be no liquidation. And we were lied to, because we found out later that many of these executives were in a retention mode to keep their bonuses, and it was in their best interest to keep us as a supplier, which put us at tremendous risk. So that mistake was probably more an emotional one. I probably wouldn't make that mistake again. I hope I wouldn't. But we really, that's something that's cautionary tale, obviously. And streamlining our business was something that we also worked on very hard. And we were probably behind more than we were ahead in streamlining our business, because we had a lot of loyal employees. We had a lot of really very, very good people work for us. And me personally, I will tell you, it's very hard to pull somebody out of the company or restructure a company when people have been doing their jobs for many, many years and doing it very successfully. So that's something that I would go back to and look at probably a little differently. On the digital side, we're not just a marketing company, we're a creative company. We own a studio in Seattle, and we own one in New Zealand, and they make games from conception to completion. And we market those companies through absolutely no real expenditure of traditional advertising dollars. We are very, very much engaged with influencers on YouTube who go out and actually play a game in front of 100, 200, 300, 500,000 people. We do a lot of guerrilla PR work. The market is a hard market. It's very segmented. There's a big demographic, so we have to work very hard on the marketing side to address as much of the market as we can, but it is not a traditional advertising market, so it's very different. And I have a feeling people here probably are in a similar situation. Traditional advertising is very, very hard to justify, the expenses of it to justify. It's a much more on-the-ground work. So in our space, it's dealing with that group of influencers who really talk to the video game buying and playing public.
That's interesting. As far as traditional marketing is concerned, some people like to understand what is the cost of guerrilla marketing, right? You still have people, you need to reach out to people and follow up on the people. How do you quantify those costs? How do you quantify how much it costs to reach out to this person? How many downloads do you get from that person? How does that work?
I think the real key is that we are in a business that's platform driven. So Valve, which has a product called Steam, where the majority of PC video game product is downloaded from, they have a very specific way of marketing games because they make 30% of every sale. They make 30% on every sale. So on every dollar, they're taking 30 cents. So you have you basically have a platform advertising group that wants your game to succeed. So that's a little different. Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony also are 70-30. So it's a little different because those platforms help drive sales. And you're going to if you have a game that's successful, I will tell you that it is the hugest word of mouth business that you ever saw. A game will succeed based on getting a player population, and what you have to leverage that player population to the widest audience that you possibly can. That's done through mostly the platforms, and it's really hard to influence the market past that in our space.
Another few more minutes. Let's just have two interesting questions that are not necessarily industry driven. So you had over 100 employees. I think by the time you sold your company, now you're starting off again. One of the common questions people always ask is, in an industry like yourself, in every industry you have this question, how do you deal with the fear that you have an employee or upper level management, sees what you're doing, knows your strategies, would you pick up and start another business? How do you keep employees happy and at the same time deal with that fear?
I believe firmly that a good employee